when the earth was new, something came. See, there's a star, a constellation up there, a certain constellation where there is a passageway in the middle of that constellation. This passageway leads to another part of the universe. Okay? This thing came out of there. Yeah? And then it flew through that constellation and it came to the earth and it put certain things under the earth. Alright? Now we have this organization called Wakantanka. The Christians translate that to mean God. If you remember what I was talking about earlier tonight, about how we went through a Christian brainwashing, part of that process included changing the definition of certain words into a Christian definition. So today, most Indian people think that Wakantanka means God, but it doesn't. It's an organization consisting of males, females. One has no gender, it's androgynous, and the other one has both genders. It's kind of like a hermaphrodite. So you have these people that are in this organization. They went into the earth, and they, from this material, they created millions of creatures called Pte Oyate. Now again, today a lot of people, they mistranslate that. They think that Pte Oyate means Buffalo Nation. No, it does not. Yeah? Ptech Chaka is buffalo. Tchatchanka is a buffalo bull. So Tchatchanka does not mean buffalo. It means a buffalo bull. It's specific. Okay? But Pte is a being that looks human, but it's not. It's not animal either, though. Yeah? It looks human, but it's not. They're called Pte Oyate. Okay? So, some of this group came on the surface of the earth, and they got in trouble. They were tricked by a trickster named Iktomi, and the result was they became the food for the wolves. The wolves entered a compact or a contract with Iktomi, promising that they will be his assistants and helpers if he brings them food, because at that time the wolves were about ready to go extinct. And so Iktomi took advantage of that. Yeah? He says, I can give you a good food. It really tastes good, and you drink its blood, it's going to taste so good it's going to make you crazy. You're going to want more and more and more. It tastes so good that even when you're full, you want to eat more. That's what he said to them. So, just when they were meeting someplace, Iktomi said, stay right here, I'm going to bring your food to you, so you can have a feast. That's when this Pte, the first group, came on the earth, and Iktomi greeted them, and he said, come, there's a feast for you. He said. So the people were all happy, so they followed Iktomi too, but they didn't know it was Iktomi, yeah, because he was disguised as a really nice person. So they followed him into this big clearing in the Black Hills, and Iktomi said, just wait right here. and and so he went, and then the wolves came in. They were circled. They circled all the humans. Yeah, there were hundreds of thousands of humans that were there, and most of them were killed and eaten by the wolves, because what Iktomi said was true to the wolves, that the blood, human blood, just drives them crazy. Really tastes good to them. See, the first Ptah people, when they came on the earth, they became human. So they're no longer called Ptah Oyate, now they're called Ikje Oyate, the human nation. Yeah, that when they come on the surface of the earth, that's when they transformed into human. Yeah, Ptah looks like a human, but it's not. It's not an animal either. So when they come on the earth, they become human, and they're tricked by Iktomi to go into this clearing where they are attacked by wolves waiting for them, and most of them were killed. There was just a handful that survived. So the leader of the Ptah Oyate that were still under the ground, he had a dream, a vision, that the first group that went was in trouble. So he said, we have to go help them. They all agreed. So when this second group left that area under the ground, they came out of a place called Wind Cave in the Black Hills. And the second group transforms too, but only thing is, the second group of Ptah Oyate transform into what is today buffalo. So that second group of Ptah Oyate, they transformed into buffalo, and now that second group was called Ptah Oyate. That is the Buffalo Nation. So when the humans are taught by vision how to kill the buffalo, and that when they take one, it doesn't belong to them, it does not belong to the hunter, it belongs to the people, so that everybody's fed. See what I mean? It's really a community way. So traditional hunting is like they have a funeral before the animal is shot and after the animal is shot. This is the second half of this funeral. They apologize to the Buffalo Nation, and the humans made a promise. They would say, we promise to use this buffalo for everybody, that everybody will eat. Yeah, and whoever needs new clothes, they will get it from the buffalo leather, buffalo robes and such. So, yeah, they gave thanks. Yeah, and they apologized to the Buffalo Nation, and they gave something in return to the Buffalo Nation. It's a very serious thing to hunt an animal, that you use it, as much of it as you can. And it's not just for you, it's for the people. You give thanks, you apologize, and you promise to that animal nation that everybody will be fed, and that whoever needs clothes will get clothes from the leather. You see that community thing, thinking like that. So the second group came out from under the earth. They're called Pteh, and they had chased away the wolves that were chasing the humans. The buffalo are very intelligent. It's really interesting. I mean, I've seen film footage of where a buffalo died. I think it was just really old. It just fell to the ground. It was over. Immediately the wolves surrounded. But there were 4 buffalo bulls that chased them off, and they surrounded this their relative who was on the ground. They surrounded their relative, and they faced outwardly, keeping an eye if any more wolves are going to come. So they chase away the wolves like that. They're protecting the humans. We're relatives. Yeah? The humans and the buffalo evolve from the same species called Pte Oyate. This is why we associate with the buffalo. And when we saw the buffalo organizing, it was amazing. And what they organized into worked. It was a beautiful thing. There was no one leader over everybody. It was a council. It was a group of old buffalo that were leading. It wasn't just one leader. And the Lakota people, when they were observing the buffalo, they realized, gee, these guys are really smart. They're organizing into a community thinking society. So the Lakota people adapted that too, because we're relatives with the buffalo. So we adopted that same organization that the buffalo have, because it works. And that's Tiospaye. T is to dwell, yeah, or it's house, or your home. And Ospaye is like a group of people. Most of them are related to each other, but there's going to be some that are not related, but they share something in common. So this is why they travel together. It's a Tiospaye. So when everybody's talents are taken into consideration, older people with the same talent are helping younger people to develop that talent, so that they can all contribute to the success of their group. So as soon as you can start remembering, you see all around you the community perspective. People helping one another because they want to. There's no duality. Everybody's fed. Everybody has a home. Everybody is loved. In the Tiospaye system, your mother and her sisters are all your mothers. And the husbands of these women are all your fathers. And the children from these marriages are your brothers and sisters. Your mother's brother is your uncle. And their wives are your aunts. And their children are your cousins. Now that's your mother's side, okay? Your father's side, it's your father and his brothers are your other fathers. And all the wives of these men are your other mothers. And the children of those marriages are all your other brothers and sisters. And your father's sister is your auntie. And their husbands are your other uncles. And their children are your cousins. This is the basic structure of a Tiospaye. And so from a very young age, you realize that all the mothers are just as important as your biological mother. And they all can raise you, or they can all, teach you something if you messed up. Yeah, so it's not just your biological mother and father that that will do this. It's your other mothers and fathers. They are all equally important. So you grew up loved, and you grew up witnessing every day the community thinking perspective. This comes from the Buffalo people. And then you soon learn that the buffalo represents healthiness, balance, and the wolf is the aggressor. The wolf is duality. When buffalo organized themselves, there was no one leader. Same way with the Lakota ancestors. You see that from a very young age, the community perspective. That's all you see. That's what you know. And it works. You witness it, that it works. So all mothers are just as important as your biological mother. That's what I was trying to say. And all fathers are just as important as your biological father. So you're loved by a lot of adults, but you can be punished by any one of these adults, and it's acceptable because they're all your relatives in the Tiospaye way of thinking. This is what we got from the Buffalo people. This is how they organized. They cooperated with one another. There was not one supreme leader. There was no meditation. Intimidation. They didn't intimidate each other. They worked as a unit. This is how our society is. Our ancient society is this way. So we were mirroring the Buffalo people. Okay? So, when the humans were hiding, from the wolves after that initial attack, they were trying not to let the wolves find them, and just then the buffalo came, and they chased off the wolves. They just ran over them. Because wolves are a sign of duality. The wolf organization has a one leader, the leader of the pack. And when any younger wolf, male wolf, tries to, kind of overthrow him, challenges him. And the old wolves are usually still tough, so they put the young males to shame. But see, there's intimidation going on. There's only one leader in a wolf society. And it doesn't work because they're always hungry. They always want to attack. They always want to intimidate. So that's a dualistic representation. And whereas the buffalo represents a community perspective, which is actually a healthy perspective because it works. So children are their talents are identified as they get older. Adults who have the same talent then take that child into their society, because there's many, many different societies in the camp. And when it comes to learning, students with the youngsters with the same talent meet together with older people who also have that same talent, and the older people are helping the younger people to get comfortable with their talent, whatever it is, and to start developing it, to use it to help the people. And you see how it makes them feel good. You feel good, and you're not selfish about it. That's the community thinking perspective. You see it from the day you can remember. Everything serves somebody. In the group, it's not just the person, one person. It's always going to be others involved too, because they're all supporting each other. So people, like I was saying, I kind of wandered off the talent thing. People have talents, and as soon as they're recognized, older people with the same talent take those children and teach them how to use it. And this contributes to the success of their group. They think as a group, whereas the wolves follow the leader. There's one leader with the wolves. That's duality. Yeah, so in this story, as the humans were hiding, wolves were standing around this cave. So the buffalo charged into them and killed most of the wolves. The humans were being attacked by the wolves. Okay, when the buffalo people come on the earth, they chase away the wolves. Okay, and from this we learn that the wolves have a one leader concept, and that he maintains his position through intimidation. So if any younger wolves try to challenge him, he puts them in their place. Yeah, that's intimidation. This is not peace. But that's the way that animal is. But with buffalo, they work together as a community, and that's how we are. That's how our ancestors were. They were mirroring that. So there's such a close connection with the buffalo that what happens to them happens to us, and what happens to us happens to them as well. So we have to look out for one another. Yeah. So thanks to the buffalo, the humans did not go extinct. Yeah, in the beginning of this planet. So let's look at this Tiospaye. I described what it was in different ways. And there is no currency. From a young child, you see others making things, for other people to use, and it's nice. The interaction between them is really nice. It encourages them to call each other relatives, kinship terms. Even though sometimes they may not be related, they still use the kinship terms. Because this is all part of this community thinking perspective. This is all part of working together. It shows that every person is important in this group because of their talents, whatever it is. It contributes to the success of that group. That is a community thinking perspective. And it's healthy because there's no one leader, there's no intimidation, but there's protection, there's compassion, there's love for each other. So the way this is Tiospaye set up is that there's certain people who are really good at hunting. There's certain ones who are really good with agricultural things. There's some who are really good in other things, and they all do their thing to contribute to this community thinking lifestyle. It feels nice to help people, and it's nice to see them smile. And they'll remember that, so they will help others too. Yeah, it's all a community thinking perspective. Every person has a talent, and that's developed. It's identified, and then it's developed. That's nice. That's how it used to be. That's the ancient way. Yeah. So, this these rich people, these 6 families that are controlling the currency, the what do you call it? They're called the central. No, that's not the right word. What are they called again? Federal Reserve Bank, and they are like the wolves. So what beats the wolves? The buffalo. And what or how are the buffalo organized? Into a Tiospaye. So to really get good at your talent, you're really making a contribution to your society. It's success. You see that all the time. It's all you know is this community thinking perspective. That's our way. And selfish people who oppress, would be following the wolf. You see what I mean? So, to break that, this current dualistic reality that we're all trapped in, to break that means changing the way you think. You have to reprogram yourself. You have to reprogram yourself so that you know how unhealthy the duality is, and you know what works for everyone. So the whole Tiospaye is organized in a way where everybody benefits, where everybody has food, where everybody has clothes, where everybody has a place to sleep for the night. And they all address each other as relatives. All of this adds up to really feeling good to be a part of such an organization. And people who are dualistic just absolutely can't stand it. Yeah? So, to break it is to think like a buffalo. To break the duality, we have to think like the buffalo. And we will find a way. We can set up a community where, there's a certain part of the area is spiritual, another part is focusing on emotional well-being, and on and on and on. So in this community way of thinking, you learn that ever since you can remember. It's all you know. And this actually can balance out mental illness because they're emotionally healthy in the Tiospaye. A Tiospaye, you're healthy in all 4 parts of the self. With wolves, it's a duality. They maintain their organization through intimidation. Yeah? And so, to do away with this reality that these banking families have created on the earth ever since the 1700s, the way to beat it is to go to a Tiospaye way of living. And that's how you beat it. Because are growing in emotional intelligence, which means you can comprehend more, and then you can teach others. Whatever your talent is, you can teach that. So everybody is fed, everybody has a home, everybody is having clothes. Nobody goes without. Nobody's better than the other. In fact, what it's about is how much can you contribute with your talent. It's not a contest. For example, some people have lots of talents, so they can, help people in many ways. It's a good thing. Doesn't mean they're better. It just means they're capable of it, because we're all different. We all have our own vision. But this system that I'm talking about is what can beat the currency people, because they can't control it. This is what is required for a healthy lifestyle. So the wolves, it's not necessarily a good thing. And this is not our animal. This is not an ally to us. But like I said, you look at the way both animals function in their group. In buffalo, it's more healthy. And the wolf way includes fear and intimidation. And that's not healthy. So the rich people that are, trying to keep everybody enslaved in the dualistic reality, that can be defeated in a healthy way by transforming it into something like a Tiospaye, where everybody benefits. There is no rich, there is no poor, there's just life and spirituality. That's how it can be beat. And some other social, what do you call it? Humanitarian people. That's not the right word. The kind of people that volunteer for let's go to Africa and dig a well. Those kind of people. What was I going to say about that? Trying to follow my thought pattern here. People, but maybe I'll get it in a few minutes. But again, I want to reiterate something though. The people who have the money, who control the currency, to have a Tiospaye is a thorn in their side. Well, now I remember what I was going to say. There's people who are, activists and stuff, but they're really smart. They have educational degrees, and they came up with a model of how to have a successful economy where no currency is involved. And basically what they were describing was a Tiospaye. I thought that was really cool. So we had this Tiospaye way of thinking for hundreds of thousands of years until this Christian brainwashing experience happened that I talked about earlier. Now we're not healthy anymore. Now we're dualistic too. That's sad. There's a group. They were, trying to find a alternative kind of, a community, to create an alternative kind of community, which there's no currency, and you work for food and so forth, and clothes, and things that you need, um, but there's no money involved, because you get it, but then you have to help others in something too. But you want to, because when you live this way, you have that community perspective. So you want to help others. So the community they came up with, these social scientists or whatever they were, it was really a nice village that they created. And the funny thing is, it looked pretty much like what I just described for you. Their model looked like a Tiospaye. That's what our ancestors had, as I said in the beginning. Then through this Christian brainwashing experience of the late 1800s and early 1900s, that's when we became dualistic and we lost contact to our sacred center. So we don't know the customs anymore. That's sad. Yeah. Like I said, when you're born in an ancient Lakota society, you learn from the beginning about being a community thinker, doing things for others, helping others when they need help. Yeah. That is the Buffalo way. That's the Lakota Star Knowledge way. To help one another without expecting thanks. I mean, you're welcome. Or thanks. And no currency involved. Yeah. So I think when people, can see that they are no longer in debt for anything. The city that these guys came up with, like I said, it basically looked like a Tiospaye. The way it functioned. Everybody's important. Nobody's less important than anybody. This is the foundation of the Tiospaye. Yeah. And that's the way we lived for hundreds of thousands of years until the churches came. And as I said earlier, we were brainwashed into accepting Christianity. So, the way to beat this these mega rich people who are controlling the world's resources, chemical resources and stuff like that, their way is the way of the wolf. It's not cooperation. Because, like, for example, remember, I don't know if any of you remember this, but back in the 80s, when AIDS was identified, the doctors who discovered it were like resident doctors or something like that. They were the ones who discovered it. But their supervisor doctor was a narcissist, and he wanted all the attention. He wanted the credit for it. See, that is the wolf perspective. That's an example. It's not healthy because they take advantage of those underneath them, and usually narcissism is really strong in that kind of way. Like attracts like. Unhealthy attracts unhealthy. It's the bottom line. So that's how you beat that system, by coming up with a society that is basically functioning the same way as a Tiospaye is functioning. And things get done. People have food. People can gather or fish or whatever. Go hunting. And they see the bullshit, behind currency. Eventually they see it. So this is the solution. Yeah, to return to, like I said, it could be just a small group of people even. People who are only 3 feet tall. Hey, I'm just kidding. No, um, um, this the Tiospaye way. Like I said, there's no currency involved, but yet everybody's taken care of. And right away, dualistic people are saying, "Well, what you're describing is socialism, or what you're describing is, it doesn't matter. We don't have time to waste in trying to label it. So we have to use what we have to make a contribution to our group so that it functions and everybody benefits. In the government, everybody's viewpoint is important. This is the Buffalo way. There's no intimidation involved. And something like that would really upset these 6 families that control the Federal Reserve Bank, because it shows a society that can live without money. And that angers these bankers, because the bankers want everybody in this world to live by money. Yeah? So the Tiospaye system, you learn your talent, you are taught by older people who have the same talent, and then you make your contribution to your society. And everybody benefits. Everybody's healthy. Yeah? And that works. But a wolf society is not that way. That's a society of oppression. That's how you break. Yeah, the Tiospaye breaks this dualistic world. In our way, we didn't have days of the week. For what? What for? Yeah, this doesn't serve a purpose. The days of the week, this is set up. People like to say, "Oh, it's a Gregorian calendar. They're the ones that set that up." And by golly, that no really good reason, but for corporations to have people work. And for those of you that are knowledgeable about this, when the industrial age began, that factories were working around the clock. They were even employing children and not paying them. And this was a common practice. Yeah? So lots of kids died in these factories. Just falling into the machines because they're working 20-hour days, and no kidding here. Yeah, and they don't get paid. So yeah, the industrial age, all the countries like England, America, and all these countries they were all they abusing children like this. And so I think it's kind of funny that well, at least they came up with child labor laws, but I think that was quite a battle to establish that. Yeah, and I know in America it was to say that kids shouldn't be working, and but it was a battle that companies fought against it. Can you imagine that? And what is that saying? They don't value human life. That they see children as a way to get their products manufactured for no price at all, and they can reap in 100% profit. It's all because of money. Yeah, it always comes down to that. So, so because of those things, and then to say, so they'll raise the age limit, yeah, that, and so later, you have to be a certain age to apply for jobs and so forth, and even then, the corporations are still trying to find a way to take advantage of workers, and fighting against the development of unions, and then the unions kind of become questionable, and and it's all a war over money, basically, and establishing. Okay, so then we'll work, um, 5 days of the week, things like that, and same thing for going to school and all that kind of thing. And see, this is all set up for corporations. It's not set up for the betterment of the people. Absolutely not. It has nothing to do with the Sabbath. It has everything to do with making money. Yeah, that's how it is. In the Lakota world, we had a Tiospaye system in which everybody benefits. Everybody is. There's no currency for one thing, and you're brought up in a community thinking perspective, and um, you see this. As soon as you can remember, you see that in action. That when hunters are going out for buffalo, it's whatever they bring back. It's for everybody. It's for the whole camp to feast on. It's not just for that hunter's wife and children. It's for the whole camp. And anybody who needs new clothes will get clothes from that, or they need if winter's coming and somebody needs a buffalo robe for winter time, that's going to go for that person too. So everybody's going to be taken care of. And children, their talents are identified, and then they go to the proper society that focuses on that talent. And older people, adults, are teaching those children how to develop their talents. So they see it in action that everybody's making a contribution. Everybody's talent is important, and everybody's making a contribution. Everybody's taking care of one another according to the way they can. Yeah, and the warrior societies are not just hunters and going to war. No. There's more than that. What these guys are doing is there's different warrior societies, and everyone has a different focus. Like say for example, when a man in the family has died for whatever reason, there will be a warrior society that'll focus on those children. Yeah, and to always tend to them, so that they know they're always going to be loved and so forth and taken care of. Or to old people, there might be a warrior society that focuses on the old people. There's just different groups like that, just so everybody's taken care of. And it's for social events, a warrior society may sponsor a hunt and then a feast afterwards, and then at the feast, the warriors in that society who did this hunt, they will get up and make speeches about the brave things they've done in battle and things like that. And this is to psych the people up so that the people feel safe, so that the people know that they're always going to be alive, they're always going to be protected, they're going to be loved, they're going to be fed and taken care of, and things like that. Yeah, this is so it's to remind the people that we're all in it together, and we're going to make it, because in those days it's hard, to live in the elements like that. So it's a really community thinking society. And in the Tiospaye is comes from two Lakota words: Ti, meaning to live or dwell at, and Ospaye, which is a group of people that have something in common. Most of the people will be related in an extended way, but there will also be people in that group who are not related, but they share something else in common, and because of that, they have that common identity. This is Tiospaye. And with the family part, the way it works is like this. Your mother and her sisters, those are all your mothers. And they're all equally important. The husbands of these women are all your fathers. And they're all equally important. Yeah? The children of these marriages are your brothers and sisters. Yeah? So, your mother's brothers are your uncles, and their wives are your aunties, and their children are your cousins. Okay, That's your mom's side. Now, your father is your father, and his brothers are your other fathers. And the wives of these men are your other mothers. And those children from those marriages are your other brothers and sisters. So you have lots of moms and lots of dads, and they're all equally important. So should your biological mother or father die, it's going to be a loss. There will be a time to grieve and mourn, but you've got a lot of mothers waiting for you. So you're not going to be alone. Yeah, you're not going to be alone. So, and they're all raising you anyway. Yeah, to begin with, they're all raising you anyway. So it's just life moves on. Yeah. Your father's sisters are your aunties, and their husbands are your uncles, and their children are your other cousins. This is Tiospaye. Yeah, that's how that works. So, and this is what we get from the buffalo. We have a really old story that shows that. Yeah, that the buffalo, when they came here, they organized this way, and we saw that, and it worked. There's no one leader of the group. It's a council of leaders. This is the Lakota perspective. It's a council of leaders. There's usually about 4 or 5 councils in the typical community, and they all meet with, there's 2 that are at least 2 that are consisted of old men that are, the one group used to be, mighty fine hunters, and the other ones are very wise. Yeah, and so they give their advice to the younger councils before decisions are made and things like that. And then women have their councils too. They have their way too, because the Lakota way. A lot today, people like to say we were matriarchal, but that's not true. In the ancient Lakota way, there's a really old story that explains that everybody knows there's a female cycle, but the story tells that there's also a male cycle, and that these 2 cycles, they can go really good together, but that neither one is more important than the other. That they're both important for life to exist. Both cycles are important. So the kind of perspective we had was not matriarchal, and it was not patriarchal either. It was something different. Yeah, and people can argue with me on that, but hey, I'm going by Lakota Star knowledge. Okay, that's from the ancestors, and that's what it teaches. We were not matriarchal. We were not patriarchal. We were something different. So, in this ancient society, there was no need for currency. Yeah, you did things like hunting or gathering and making things. You provided for goods for others, and on top of that, there were trading places in North America. Yeah, where Indians would travel great distances to go there, and this is when you come to these areas, you come in peace. Yeah, you cannot bring weapons into that area, and then people trade, and you so sometimes you'll find things like turquoise up in South Dakota and seashells. Yeah, and that's there's nothing like that in South Dakota. So that means they traded. Yeah, they traveled someplace to trade for those things. And in these gathering places, people also had celebrations. So one really good evidence of this is among Lakota people, we have a game called Shini game. Yeah, and when you see this, it looks like lacrosse. And I know that's a French word, and I think the Indians in the northeast played this game. Yeah, and that's where it originated from. How in the hell did that get over in South Dakota area? They got it from one of these meeting places, yeah, because they saw these other Indians playing this game, and they said, hey, that's pretty cool. So they joined in, and they learned the rules, and then they brought it back. So you see there's an exchange of of even fun things that happened, thousands and thousands of years ago among native peoples in North America. So, um, you traded things, yeah, and there was no currency. We didn't use currency because currency is going to develop a duality, and whoever controls it is going to control everything, and that's exactly what's happening today in the modern world. But in the native world, we didn't have that. Now, some people may argue that, oh yeah, but what about them wampum belts? Well, you know what? I kind of don't think that was a monetary thing. I think that was something more than that, actually. Yeah, and also every tribe is different, so it's possible that maybe some groups did have some kind of currency, but in the plains area, there's no monetary system. Yeah, there is no currency. So, it, in the Lakota view, it's a community thinking perspective, and as everybody is provided for, and as a result, there is no rich, there is no poor, because that's a duality. Yeah, so you people need something, you find a way to help them, yeah, to get it or make it or whatever. So people, that's the way they lived. So when you hear a story that says something like, "Yeah, this one family, they're in the camp circle. They were really poor. They had tattered clothes and they're just dirty all the time." That's probably a modern story because in ancient times, that's a dualistic thing. So that's not going to exist because it's the community way of living. Yeah. So in this way of living, what's the purpose of days of the week? It has no purpose. Yeah, there is no purpose for it. Even years, yeah, year numbers, yeah, we don't have that. For what reason? Why do we need to number the years? For what purpose? Because time just is, yeah. You sleep when you need sleep, and you get up and do what you need to do, and whatever your responsibilities are in your life, whether you're a father or a mother or whatever, yeah, you get up and you do your duties and take some time to relax and so forth, and then when it's time to go to sleep, you go to sleep, and then this is the way the life was. Well, why do we need clocks? You still get the job done. Yeah, and in the summer times they're blistering hot in the Great Plains. So in a lot of times, celebrations would happen, when it's evening time and they go all night. Yeah, and the time the sun's coming up, and people, of course they set up the guards around, because you never know when enemies are going to come, and everybody else goes to sleep until they're fully rested, and they get up and do what needs to be done. Yeah. So the purpose of clocks and days of the week and this 24-hour schedule, it serves no purpose when you're living with nature, because nature doesn't see that. Yeah. So it worked. Shit, we were here thousands of years and we did just fine without it. Yeah. So now we everything is done by the clock, and we're, even though there's more medical technology and so forth and medication and all that, we have more stress. Yeah. And now it gets to the point where pharmaceutical companies, they want you to be sick because that's how they make their money. They want you to be sick. You better be sick because that's how they make their money. So that's the dualistic world for you. Yeah, somebody's making money from all of this. So, anywho, that's why we didn't have days of the week, and that's why we didn't have calendars, and so forth like that. But what we did have was something called a winter count. But there's no numbers to that. Yeah, they just the year that something happened. They'll say, okay, yeah, this guy shot um, a buffalo, and here when they cut it open, it looked really weird inside. So that was the strangest thing that everybody talked about. So, okay, so that's what they're gonna draw, yeah, buffalo and looking weird. That's the event for the year, yeah. And so, yeah, that was the year that buffalo looked funny on the inside. Yeah, that time we were climbing that one mountain, and here, see, so that they don't go. Yeah, I remember back in the year 4 BC that that we didn't have that on the Monday. So there are names for days of the week, but these are not traditional. These come from the Christian priests, the missionaries. They're the ones who created that. That's not a Lakota thing. So I don't use them myself, yeah, because that's modern. Monday's Monday, Tuesday's Tuesday, whatever. What's the big deal? Yeah, you can't. If it's not from our culture, I just don't bother, yeah, to translate that because it doesn't fit with our way of thinking. So just call it computer, yeah, instead of this four words, yeah, to for the word computer. by the time you get done saying those 4 words, yeah, the about an hour's gone by. Yeah, so just say computer. What's the big deal? Oh gosh.